How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, we're talking about everything Game Week 35 related with the ultimate guide to double Game Week 35. To start off the video, we're first going to be looking at the possible scenarios for those fixtures taking place in the upcoming double. We're then going to go for a more in-depth analysis into the specific Game Week fixtures and what teams you guys should be targeting. We're then going to move on to some talking points relating to chip strategy, as well as how many hits are suitable for these upcoming game weeks from now to the end of the season. To finally wrap up the video, we're then going to be touching on captaincy and which players you guys should be targeting for that captaincy decision going into that Friday night deadline of double game week 35. So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So what is actually happening in double game week 35 and which teams have doubles and which teams have single fixtures? Well, to be honest, nothing has been confirmed yet. Although we do have the majority of these double game weeks confirmed, we still have one fixture that is kind of causing a little bit of mess. And that fixture is the game week 34 fixture of Liverpool versus Man United. And as you guys know, that fixture was postponed. So now obviously the Premier League has to kind of rearrange this fixture, and whether it's going to be taking place now or in the future is yet to be seen. But thanks to our friend on Twitter at Ben Krillin, the kind of FPL guru for these double game weeks and these blank game weeks, he's come up with two predictions of what he thinks will happen. And to be honest, Ben Krillin is usually right on the money there, so I am kind of trusting of his words. The first scenario on the left hand side of your guys' screen there is going to be if Liverpool do have a double game week in game week 35, and then on the right hand side it's going to be whether Liverpool have that double game week in game week 36. So as I mentioned, that Liverpool versus United game is the reason there's been quite a lot of confusion about the upcoming game weeks, but the thing about it is that it will definitely be taking place in game week 36. So that's quite a good positive aspect there, is that United won't blank in game week 36, and that makes it quite a lot easier to navigate that blank game week, because I'm pretty sure the majority of us do own one or two United players. But the thing about that Liverpool double is that it's not the United fixture that's the problem, it's when that West Bromwich Albion game is actually going to be taking place. So as I mentioned, left hand side double game week 35, right hand side double game week 36. So we could either have a really nice double in double game week 35 for Liverpool with Southampton, West Brom. I mean, just look at those fixtures. If you guys do own the triple captaincy chip still, definitely look at a Mo Salah or maybe a Liverpool defender, because those fixtures look quite hard to beat. But then obviously the double game week 36 double game week isn't that great. West Bromwich Albion, United, but it still is a double game week. So it doesn't really change too much, to be honest. It's kind of just which the game week Liverpool will have that double game week in. And throughout this video, we won't be touching on Liverpool too much. We'll be just going for the confirmed fixtures that are happening right now, because in my opinion, it's a little bit of a no-brainer there. If Liverpool have the double game week in game week 35, you 100% will load up on their options, captain their options, because that double game week is simply just so much better than any of the others. But where you go for those differentials, where you go for those other options in your sides, that's going to be where the real power comes from in getting those boosts up the ranks and in your mini leagues. So when you do look at the fixtures and the game week planners here, you can see that it's just this game week 35 double and that game week 36 blank that are going to be quite hard to navigate from now to the end of the season. And we'll talk about a little bit later on, if you guys still own those chips, which game weeks that you guys should be using on. But please don't just focus on double game week 35. Still remember that game week 36 is a blank game week, so don't kind of load up on those Arsenal options, those Chelsea options, those Leicester options, because they do blank in game week 36. If you do think they'll do well in double game week 35, just make sure that you have a plan to have a full starting 11 in game week 36, because you saw in game week 34 how bad it is when you can't get a full starting 11 out there. I mean, I think my own squad, I had about 8 players, I had about 9 players, and I definitely can see a majority of red arrows if you guys can't fill a starting 11, and you definitely don't want red arrows at this stage of the season. But now that we've kind of looked at the game week planners from Ben Krillin, as I mentioned, go follow him on Twitter and myself on Twitter for those future updates when they do announce when this Liverpool double game week will be in game week 35 or 36. But this is the current scenario, not too much kind of variance in there, it's just depending on when that double is for Liverpool. Now moving on to the double game week 35 fixtures, and as I mentioned, not going to talk about Liverpool too much, because in my opinion, a little bit of a no-brainer there. If they do have the double game week this week, it's going to be absolutely great, and I definitely will be highlighting their players. But now we're going to look at every single fixture and kind of show you the fixtures and the teams that I think that you guys should be focusing on. So first off, on that Friday night deadline, please don't forget that it is a Friday night deadline. Make sure you get those captaincy decisions and those team selection decisions before Friday evening, so that you guys don't end in tears in double game week 35. But the first fixture, Leicester versus Newcastle. This is one of those games that I think that you guys should be focusing on. Not only Leicester still hoping hoping for that top 4 spot. Going to be quite competitive, quite passionate in this game. But I think that Newcastle are kind of approaching that stage of the season where they're quite comfortable. Not going to be relegated, not going to kind of move up too much in the table. So I think they should be a little bit on the beach in this one. And I do favour some goals for Leicester and potentially a clean sheet. So there's Leicester options. I'd definitely be looking at them. And this is kind of the fixture that you guys will be targeting from a Leicester point of view, because their next fixture against United doesn't look that great. The next fixture is a little bit hard to call here. It's Leeds versus Spurs. Now, I think a couple of game weeks ago, I probably would have said that this game was quite good from a Spurs point of view. I mean, they did have a good result in game week 34 against Sheffield United, but Leeds are a completely different side, and I do think against the inverted commas top 6 opposition, they are putting in quite a good shift. So I think this Leeds game, Spurs game, going to be quite close here. I'm not expecting too many goals in that one, and that's kind of the only reason why I didn't highlight this as one of those fixtures to watch on your guys' radar. The next fixture though, definitely one to highlight, and if you guys do notice, Crystal Palace are the only side that has 2 highlighted fixtures from my point of view. Sheffield United is one, and then Southampton is the other one, and that's quite interesting there. So if you guys are using a free hit, looking for some differentials, Crystal Palace is definitely the team that you guys should be looking at, because in my opinion, they currently have the best double game week on paper, and you guys should be looking at those assets. So Sheffield United already relegated there. We saw Spurs absolutely tear them apart, especially in that second half. So I'm expecting a similar situation here with Crystal Palace. The nice thing about Crystal Palace is a player like Wilfried Zaha currently might have a little bit of an injury scare, so just kind of monitor that situation. But we saw Gareth Bale, that pace in behind was really critical. So I think a player like a Zaha should do well in this one, and I'm favouring kind of the pace of Crystal Palace to do quite well in this fixture. Then it's Man City Chelsea. I think this game's going to be quite a close one. Top 6 opposition here again. Man City and Chelsea both playing in the Champions League. I think that Chelsea will be a little bit more tired. The first reason being is that they play a day after Man City do, and also Man City's squad is just so deep they can simply just rotate and still put in a competitive shift there. So Man City Chelsea, quite a close game there. I'm expecting a 0-0, 1-1 or a 1-0 to either side here, but not too many goals in this one, unfortunately. But the next game, I'm kind of hoping for some good results. Liverpool, Southampton. Southampton are a little bit of a weird side here. Against the lower opposition, don't really play that well, but against the tougher opposition, as we saw in game week 34, I mean, drawing against Leicester with only 10 men is not a shabby achievement there. So I think against Liverpool, this game might be closer than maybe some people are predicting, but it is still Liverpool. I think from an attacking point of view, they can still do quite well, even though they're not really playing that well at the moment. And this game is at Anfield, which is actually quite a bad thing, because Liverpool's scoring record at Anfield this season hasn't been good at all. So I reckon that Southampton might be favouring their chances, but I do think out of the fixtures in double game week 35, this could be one that you guys do highlight. The next couple fixtures, not much to talk about there. We have Wolves, Brighton, Aston Villa, United, West Ham, Everton. I think kind of the only fixture I was really tempted to kind of highlight was going to be that Aston Villa United game, but I just think this game will be also quite close. And the next game is going to be against Leicester. So a little bit of a mediocre kind of double game week there, but United have been pretty good this season. So I think against both these sides, they could still get some returns. It's going to be quite hard to predict which attacker is going to get the returns out of that United side. The next fixture that I have highlighted is going to be Arsenal West Brom. Now West Brom, hit or miss. I mean, they've been pretty good in the last couple game weeks, but then also had some bad games. But then Arsenal have been exactly the same. So it's quite hard to call here. I kind of only go for an Arsenal attacker if you guys want to go differential. An Aubameyang, a Pepe. I think Lacazette might be back from injury, but I'm not 100% sure on that one, so don't kind of check me on that. So I think Aubameyang, if Lacazette is out, he should continue at that center striker position, and I think Aubameyang is quite attractive at that center forward position, so you guys could look at him. The next fixture, Burnley, Fulham, a classic almost 0-0 there, although Chris Wood has been playing pretty well for Burnley at the moment. But then we go on to Crystal Palace's next fixture, which I have already highlighted, so I'm not going to touch on that one too much. Now the next couple fixtures, which are kind of the majority of those double game week fixtures, aren't too great. I mean, you have United, Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal, then Aston Villa, Everton. Not great fixtures there in terms of the kind of double game week. That's what I kind of wanted to highlight here, is that this double game week isn't actually that sensational. We've got some close games in my opinion, so it's going to be quite hard to predict which players score well, but then you can also kind of look at it from a point of view where you can load up on a Crystal Palace, mega differentials, and you could come out looking quite good at the end of double game week 35. The last team that I want to highlight here are going to be Everton, because they face West Ham and Aston Villa, and those two fixtures kind of scream mediocrity to me. A kind of average fixtures in my opinion there, so not great fixtures, but kind of a two average fixtures, probably make one good fixture. So you guys still could go for like a Calvert-Lewin, a Lucas Digne, a Richarlison. And the nice thing about Everton is that they do play in blank game week 36 as well against Sheffield United. So maybe load up on those Everton players if you guys do have some free transfers and you want to prepare for the upcoming blank in blank game week 36. But that's enough of the fixtures. Now let's go and look at the stats behind them and which fixtures are rated the highest. So first of all, I went over to Fantasy fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, and I went onto their attacking ratings here. Don't really look at the stars here. I know the fixtures and the ratings might be a little bit outweighted here. For example, Liverpool are currently a 4-star defense and a 4-star attack, whereas you probably could argue that they might be a 3-star at a push there, but they basically rated the fixtures from an attacking point of view. The next talking point we'll be going over is defensive point of views, but I kind of wanted to give you guys a good indication if you're looking for an attacker versus a defender. In terms of attacking point of view, there's one clear winner here. It's going to be Crystal Palace against Southampton and Sheffield United. As I mentioned, if Liverpool don't have a double game week and double game week 35, Crystal Palace's fixtures are hands down the best double game week that you guys could offer, and that's why I think from a differential point of view, it might be worth going for like a Wilfried Zaha if he's back from injury, or maybe even a Benteke from an attacking point of view against these two sides. We then have Southampton and Arsenal, Everton kind of a little bit close there on the ratings, including Leicester there, but the thing about them is that they generally have one good fixture and then one bad fixture. Southampton have Crystal Palace, which could be quite open, but then they go and face Liverpool. Arsenal face West Bromwich Albion, but they also face Chelsea, and then as I mentioned with that Everton, two average fixtures sometimes are better than only one good fixture. So Everton have some average fixtures there in terms of Aston Villa, West Ham, and then also Leicester face Newcastle in that first game, which leads them to a 2.7. So relatively good fixtures, a little bit more differential in that top four aspect, and then we face more of the big hitters there with United, Aston Villa. They also have some good fixtures upcoming in that double, but I don't know if I'd be looking at their players too much if you guys were using a free hit. The other fixtures are rated on a single game week point of view, and the reason why I kind of wanted to highlight every single team here is that you can look at Chelsea there. Chelsea's two fixtures against Arsenal and Man City are actually lower rated than maybe a Spurs versus Leeds, and that's something that you guys have to think of if you are using a free hit, whether it's actually worth getting a double game week player or whether sticking with a single game week player that might outperform those with a double game week. So this is from an attacking point of view. We have some surprises here. No surprise there that Crystal Palace are highest rated, but in terms of Southampton, Arsenal, those fixtures might be a little bit more skewed, especially that Southampton game, because overall Southampton haven't been that great from an attacking point of view. But now let's go on and look at the defenses. So these are the defensive ratings of the side for this upcoming double game week, and we also see a similar kind of correlation between the attacking and the defensive fixtures. So once again, Crystal Palace at the top there, followed by Arsenal, Southampton, but now we have a new introduction of Aston Villa. So if you are a Martinez owner, you probably should be quite happy with that. Also United there, I would actually argue that United should be above some of these other teams, but you can see there 0.5, there's about 5 teams on that 0.5 rating. So defensively, the teams are pretty close in terms of keeping a clean sheet. So these are defensive fixtures. I always kind of favor attack versus defense because I think the upside on an attacking point of view is generally a little bit better than the defensive point of view, but kind of maybe look here and go for an attacking defender because that's kind of the best of both worlds. So now going on to the first kind of paragraph talking point, we're first going to be going over chip strategy, and this is mainly for those of you guys who still have some chips in your back pocket. If you have a free hit, if you have a wild card, I would probably just simply use that in this upcoming double game week or before it, so that you guys do prepare for the double and the blank. On the free hit kind of scenario, if you guys are kind of debating whether to use it in the double or the blank, I would probably lean towards using it in the double game week because that's just more of an attacking point of view there. You kind of are going a little more out there. I think the highest ceiling's definitely on the double game week versus the blank, but obviously with the wild card and the free hit, it's a very situational chip. So maybe monitor your own side. If you have a perfectly fine starting 11 for double game week 35, wouldn't make too many changes, then you don't necessarily have to use the free hit. But if you guys are comfortable and are kind of debating whether to use it in the double or the blank, I would favor the double. If you guys still have a thing like a bench boost or a triple captain, probably the worst scenario would be to have a wild card and a bench boost, because in all seriousness, you probably want to use a double game week for a bench boost or a triple captain, and you guys kind of are negating that scenario. So maybe if you have a full starting 11, you can use the bench boost this week and then wild card next week, which will set you up quite nicely to kind of attack the double if you guys want to. But my kind of suggestion would be consider the triple captain this week if Liverpool have the double game week. Otherwise, simply just stick to the wild card or the free hit, as I think that should lead to quite a high ceiling for your own FPL squad. We're then going to move on to hits, and the nice thing about hits is with an upcoming blank game week, hits are generally worth a -2. We've kind of gone over this quite in depth. Go through my previous videos. I made a kind of title of hits or half price here if you guys want to check out kind of the thinking behind that. But the gist of it is, if you're taking out a blank game week player and bringing in a player that plays in that specific blank, you kind of have 2 appearance points there. So a -4 hit becomes a -2. So the risk isn't too much on a blank or double game week. And the thing I would kind of suggest with the hits is that if you are taking out blank game week players and bringing in players that do play in the blank, that's perfectly fine. that kind of negates the risk of them not outperforming the player that you transferred out. And I think with these upcoming doubles, there are a couple of teams that play in the double and also have a fixture in the blank. So you can look at maybe a team like an Everton, or a good example there, a Lucas Digne, a DCL, a Richarlison, a Sigurdsson. Those type of players should lead to some good upside in the upcoming game weeks. But in terms of the hits, I wouldn't be taking too much from the upcoming double. At this stage of the season, you're kind of losing the risk there, because with less game weeks upcoming, that increases the risk of the player that you bring in not outperforming the player that you took out. And that's just simple mathematics there. It's a lower chance of games, lower chance of getting points. So I wouldn't be taking too many hits, but if it is a player that you want to captain, or if you want to have in that blank game week, I definitely think that it is advisable to maybe take one or two to just prepare yourself for the upcoming blank game week. So now to move on to the final talking point of the video, which is going to be captaincy. So what I did was I kind of went for both scenarios here. On the left hand side, I went for Fernandes and Iheanacho, who's pretty much on that kind of conservative bracket there. Their fixtures are basically confirmed to happen, so you guys don't have to have too much risk there. But then we have the new introduction of that potential double game week 35 for Liverpool. And if Liverpool do have that double game week, hands down, Liverpool assets and Mo Salah in general are going to be the most captain options, and in my opinion, the best options to go for. I mean, Southampton at home, West Bromwich Albion away. I don't think there's too much risk there, and I think that Mo Salah and his Liverpool compatriots will definitely get a couple goals in that one. It's going to be quite hard to go for a more differential attacker, the likes of Firmino, Mane, Jota. We've seen some rotation there. I mean, if you guys did check the lineup for the United fixture, Klopp went for a front three without Jota, and that's what we kind of predicted. We said in the preview for Game Week 34 that we thought that Jota had a heavy chance of being rotated, and that once again shows you that there's kind of no Liverpool attacker that I really do trust to play every single minute, besides maybe a Mo Salah. I think that he's had his rest in the past couple game weeks, so I think that he will start the majority of the fixtures, and he is kind of chasing that golden boot currently to Harry Kane. So I do think he'll be playing the majority of minutes, and that's why I think if you're going to be going for a Liverpool option, he's quite a safe one. You could maybe look at then going for a defender, a Trent Alexander-Arnold, a Robertson. Those could be good assets. You could argue that maybe that Liverpool defense hasn't been that great, but also on that lineup for United, we saw that Nat Phillips was back in the starting 11, and that Kabak-Phillips relationship and that kind of centre-back pairing had been quite successful, and then that also moves Fabinho into midfield, and I kind of like that from an attacking and a defensive point of view for Liverpool, because with Fabinho in midfield, they simply just play better as a squad. But the two fixtures that are conservative have been confirmed is going to be Fernandes and Iheanacho. First off, Iheanacho, Newcastle at home, definitely going to be kind of the fixture that you guys do target. Once again, Leicester are playing on a Friday evening, so if he does manage to blank, that's probably going to be quite a bad scenario for your captaincy. But Iheanacho in great form right now. I'm kind of backing him to continue this consecutive run of FPL returns, and against Newcastle and potentially United, I definitely think that he can do that. So you could also go for maybe a Jamie Vardy if you guys do want to go a little bit more differential, but I think that Iheanacho definitely has the form on his side, so that's probably who I would lean towards in terms of my captain. But then we go on to Bruno Fernandes, who if Liverpool don't get that double game week, he 100% will be the most captain option. Really high ownership still, although his FPL returns haven't been kind of up to par with that ownership. Had a really good game in the Europa League, and I almost wish that we saw that United vs Liverpool game, because that would have given us kind of a good indication of how Fernandes is currently playing and kind of the confidence level that he currently is on. But he 100% will be the most captain option if Liverpool don't have that double. And I mean, just look at those fixtures: Aston Villa, Leicester, not the best fixtures, not the worst in the world. And the thing about United is they're going to kind of want to still cement that title race, although if they did lose against Liverpool, that race would be over. But I think they've basically cemented that top 4 spot. This kind of would have been a completely different scenario if they didn't win the first leg of the Europa League 6-2, because now they kind of go into that second leg with a massive goal advantage. So I think that Bruno Fernandes might even be rested in the Europa League, and that will kind of be the perfect scenario, because United have a couple of tough fixtures coming up, and the fixture congestion is kind of hitting an all-time high at the moment. So you kind of were worried about maybe Bruno Fernandes being rested in one of these Premier League games. But now that they've won that first leg of the Europa League so convincingly, I do think that Fernandes will start both games, and I mean, both those fixtures have the potential for him to score in. So I think that he could be a good shout for captaincy, and definitely, as I said, will be a good option if Liverpool don't get that double game week. And now moving on to the predictor tool from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. This obviously doesn't include that double game week for Liverpool, as it has not been confirmed yet. And as you can see, Fernandes, Iheanacho, top 2 for predictions. I think Jamie Vardy was slightly higher than Iheanacho, but I took him out as this kind of uses the season as a whole, and Vardy has definitely dropped off recently. But Iheanacho, they're 8.8 points. Bruno Fernandes is the favorite with 9.9, so I can kind of see why a lot of people will go for the captain. But then we have some interesting options here. We have Luke Shaw from United there that that United defense has looked quite good this season, and I mean, from an attacking point of view, Luke Shaw has been great. I think he's one of the players, if not the highest player on that chances created this season, so I definitely can see an attacking and a defensive return from Shaw in this double game week. If you own him, maybe don't captain him. I think that owning him should be kind of sufficient, but if you guys are looking to go on a free hit or a free transfer, definitely consider the United fullback. The next two options will definitely be more differential. That's going to be Aubameyang and Watkins, and kind of with Watkins, the fixtures are quite average, so I probably would avoid, but he still is predicted to score quite well. But then with Aubameyang, you definitely are still targeting that West Bromwich Albion game at home in the second fixture. Chelsea at home is a tough game to go by. I don't think there's going to be too many goals on that one, but I think against West Bromwich Albion, Arsenal could do quite well. The thing about Aubameyang though is that Arsenal as a whole and him as a whole are kind of a little bit hit or miss, so this would definitely be more of a differential move if I was going to be captaining him. So this is basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new, have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for a free hit / wildcard draft for those of you guys who are using the chip, and then on Thursday evening we'll be returning to the usual team selection. Hopefully we do get news about this potential Liverpool double game week in game week 35 or 36, but if we don't, I'll simply just ride the journey with you guys and update you guys when it does come about. I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.